I would.
Okay, good.
So clerk, can you do a roll call, please?
Oh, I suppose. Kim O'Connell,
Here.
Sharon Kelly,
Here.
Tracy LeBlanc, Doug Rowdy,
Here.
Pamela Garvey,
Here.
Justin Wood.
No, Justin is the only one.
So 5 out of 6 are present today.
Okay. It's a quorum. All right. Approval of the agenda.
I'll move to approve. I'll second.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody have any questions or anything? If not, all those in favor then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Our minutes from the August 7th meeting.
Make a motion, we approve.
Okay, Sharon
I'll second.
and Tracy. Has everybody read them? They were in our packet. Everybody's good with it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Public comment. We do have some people here. Any public comment? None? All right. Do not have a supervisor either. That isn't on the committee that's here, do we? So let's get into the conservation easement.
Morning. This seems to be a standing agenda item for the last few meetings, and I'm going to recommend that we move it to the next meeting. This easement is still in progress, and we have a draft conservation easement. Fullest Law helped us draft that. It is now in the hands of the Half Moon Lake Conservancy and the Kaiser family. And they are now reviewing it and making some suggestions. So there may be some negotiations to the language of this easement. I'm uncertain at this point, but it's still in their hands. They're reviewing it, and we're not ready to act on it or present it. So
Okay.
that's where we're at. So I'm hopeful that we can keep this on the agenda, and just in the event that they have agreed to the terms of the agreement in October.
Okay, then I can move forward.
Yeah.
Okay,
Then we can discuss it then and present it.
sure.
Okay?
Should work. Thank you.
You're welcome.
A forester. Here we-
Morning.
Good.
Morning.
All right, so we have our 2025 annual work plan. This is statutorily required for me to be able to apply for a forest admin grant every year. So it's covenanted by a statute language of why it's presented. So I'm back. I don't know if you guys all have it in the packet, right?
Yes.
Okay. But we'll kind of just do snapshot level stuff. So I'll be brief on some stuff, or we'll skip over. More go into the goals or what we have in the plan. Let's see. We'll jump over to page 3. We kind of got a description there, how our forest is set up.
Have a page 3.
It's
Just
page
to-
8.
Started.
Oh,
6.
sorry, you're in the packet.
We're in the packet.
Way to bring that up, Claire, by any chance?
Is it in the,
It's in the packet, so it should be.
in the packet?
Yep. We can just go down. It'll be a little easier for everybody else to see it too. There we go. You can zoom out just a little bit.
Yeah, that would be page 8 for us. Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
Date for you. Okay. And some of the stuff's just reference data for you guys to all look at too. But there's a kind of a snapshot of forest acres that Polk County has. We have, just roughly over 17,000 acres of Polk County forest lands that are enrolled in county forest law. So this is the exact inventory of what we have. And we'll go down to annual time standard. So, as you guys probably know, Paul Heimstead, DNR, there's a partnership with the counties in the state that they give us 473 minimum work hours a year, the Polk County Forest. So he's helping with technical assistance, and really anything we need him for, which is super helpful for a loan department. So timber sale planning and establishment. So Essentially, the goal is to be set up an estimated 426 acres, based on our 15-year average of allowable cut. So it's one of the goals is to continue to base it on our allowable cuts. Go over the next page. Timber sale administration. So I have 11 sales that are currently sold. There was only one active, so we'll probably have a pretty busy fall and winter. Hopefully it's frozen ground again, unlike last year. So a lot of sales that will be coming up, expiring this next spring. June 30th is usually our contract end date. So stuff that sold just over a year and a half ago would be coming up to be done by June 30th of this next year. So, and then we also have about 5 sales that are expire in 2026, June of 2026. So we'll just always keep having timber sales on the books every year as we sell them in the spring. I think we're gonna have 6 coming up in next April. So we'll continue to have that revolving door of timber sales. So forest reconnaissance, we'll continue to, Paul and I work on the forest inventory of our forest. So it's all delineated up by stands and tree type, timber type, age, species, etc. So we essentially inventory these stands no longer than 20 years. So at any point, our inventory tells us when it's starting to expire or get past those 20 years. So we go in and inventory, and we roughly do 1,000 to 1,500 acres a year to always keep our inventory up to date on what we have out in the forest. So it's kind of a breakdown of acres and the years there on the spreadsheet. So go to the next one, timber stand improvement. We just currently actually just got a bid last week to do competing vegetation TSI work. So essentially a red pine stand that needs pre-commercial hand release. So we're releasing the red pine that was planted roughly about 10 years ago. So we released those, cut the oaks, competing competition in Sterling to promote our red pine that we planted, and or jack pine. So continue to look for those opportunities next year to do roughly 50 acres. Reforestation. So this year we did our planting. We planted just over 71,000 trees. So next year we'll be looking to disc trench. So just doing site prep. And then I'll be ordering trees in the next month or two to plant in 2026. So next year will be the site prep for the planting. And then the following spring, we would be planting the trees. But I'll be working on it this fall to how many trees we need to order for those sites. And then we'll continue to blade scarify, especially for jack pine regeneration to get natural regen. We just completed 25 acres a couple weeks ago. Jack pine seeds should have already dropped down on those scarification sites. So hopefully those are successful. But we'll roughly do 20 to 30 acres a year, try to look for those. And we actually get training hours from the DNR from their fire program. So it's very helpful there. And then give us a little bit of hours, and then whatever's extra, they just charge us dozer rate, state dozer rate, and not their time. So it's a fairly cheap reforestation tool for us. Forest protection, continue to treat buckthorn, prickly ash to certain places. We don't have too much, so it's, hopefully it continues that way. County forest roads, so we maintain roughly 7.79 miles of county forest road aid roads. They're considered low gas tax, so I think it's $351 a mile. So I don't have very much to actually maintain said roads. So we try to bank it over a few years and do, which has happened since I started, a little bit of a bank, and I've continued to up a little bit. So there's some bigger work that hopefully do next year. In terms of grading and brushing, it gets expensive these days. So, yeah, well, there's a few gas tax roads in Sterling we're continuing to work on. We got a lot of it done this year with some of the brushing, so we'll continue to keep picking away at those. Some of these other ones are, we'll just jump down to recreation. Goal 9, work with parks, improve recreational use groups, access and safety. Number 10, assist with administrating and writing grants with parks. And then assist with the implementation recommendations from Trail Network Plan as it pertain to Polk County forests, where they specifically conjunction properties. And then, yeah, just the kind of the miscellaneous things we also do. Firewood permits, I think we roughly give out 10 to 15 a year. Haven't had too many this year. I guess there'll be a little uptick this fall. See if there's any other ones that are kind of just your standard stuff we do every year there. A few, yeah, there could be some, a little bit more, could be some land use agreements coming up maybe next year, this fall or later this fall. There's a couple that, some inquiries about them, so there's a chance that would be, we haven't had any for a couple of years, so there might be some of that coming up pretty soon. So just waiting to hear back from actual land acquisition that occurred for that to happen. So, and I do plan on, I guess the last one there is update the Polk County Comprehensive Forest Plan. I got a lot of updates since I've started the last couple of years that I'd like to work on and get amended or changed or just tweaked. So I'm hopeful this winter at some point bring the work plan up for small amendments. So. And the last page, those are all the grants that I applied for and or assist with. Some are specific to forestry, some are specific to parks, some are both. I think just about every one of them we've used in the last year or two, or currently have now. So continue to apply and administer and look for opportunities for the county. That's kind of the last goal. So yeah, are there any questions in particular?
So you feel your goals you get are pretty attainable, even though you have 12, seems like a lot sometimes.
Yeah.
They're pretty
Yep.
attainable.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, that's a lot of grants to apply for. That takes time too.
Yeah, and some, most of them are, I do apply for, and then there's maybe one that it's just the automatic. They just send us a check for how many acres we have. I think the wildlife grant, but it's $800, so I don't get much out of it. I think they call it essentially the nickel an acre grant, so. Yeah. And there's probably some here that I apply for too, or help with pony, that aren't even on here, snowmobile, ATV aid, stuff like that. So I'm also helping with that.
sure.
Knowles Nelson, that was a new one that we've tapped into this year. For me, anyway, since I've been here, so.
How many people do you have that are actually out in the field doing all this work?
Us too.
Those
You
two.
too?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, yeah, like road work, I'll contract stuff, but our timber sales are obviously contracted.
Yeah.
Our forest improvement stuff. We're not hand planting 70,000 trees. We do put those out for bid. So I'm just the contract administrator for bid,
Yeah.
or for those. Same with timber stand improvement stuff, the mechanical hand release. Those are also put out for bid.
Okay.
So we're just running those contracts, and those are usually H-2B work visa groups. If they're American companies that run reforestation projects throughout the whole country. and they just rotate their people around as they're doing forestry in certain areas. So we'll be doing, I also got a bud capping contract we just got the bids in Monday, so I'll be doing bud capping too with a group. Same group got the hand release contract. So bud capping is essentially where we're just taking Post-it notes over our fresh planted trees this year. So 71,000 trees will get a little Post-it note stapled over the top so the deer don't browse them this winter. So we don't have mortality issues with that. So
The trees die, not the deer.
yeah.
Like,
Thanks for the clarification.
yeah,
But yeah, so that, and then most of the big road work, I subcontract that with local contractors or try to work with parks if they got some time on the side. But mostly contractor work, so. But yeah, all the field work or delineation maps, contracts, we're all at inventory, we do that. All the sale layout, that's all us, or marketing. I think this next spring we'll probably have around 400 acres. Probably between the 6 sales that we'll have out for bid, so. Somewhere in there. We're just finished up a Red Pines sale yesterday, thinning. But yeah, continue to work in the fall. Fall will be a lot nicer to get more work done, so. And then, yeah, essentially the plan just needs to be approved to go to the county board or motion. And then Shabana, last year this was put in the budget resolution. So whenever that goes online, is that October?
Like a provision inside the.
There's yep,
Resolution.
just to get approved.
To get approved because of the grant writing and stuff. Yeah, it has to go through the budget
Yep. 'Cause
process.
this is used for budget planning.
So we can put it through to the county board and then it'll go to the budget process. To move it forward.
Into that budget. Yeah, what is that budget resolution that Don makes? It's in that. To come.
Yeah, I believe that's the one that's passed in November.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so it'd just be going
part of
to
it.
then.
So today we just need to make a motion to move it on to the county board,
To move it into the budget,
into the budget.
into the budget process.
Okay,
Yeah.
Budget resolution.
Budget resolution.
Okay, yeah. So I'll entertain that motion now,
I'll make a motion to move it into the budget process.
into the budget process. All right, is there a second? Second from Doug. Any other questions? Brett? Not all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Twelve minutes.
This will be coming.
Is farmland preservation longer than 12? Probably.
Yeah, that's a pretty lengthy document and I don't know how far you want to drill into it, but
Okay.
you might want a little more time.
How about the user data from how long is yours?
That about minutes.
Can you?
Yeah.
You're up.
You got 11 now.
All right, so I believe it's probably in your packet, but we do have a summary of State Trail Pass sale totals as of August 20th. Sounds like in previous years, we had done some trail counter, provided some data that way, but I think last year it was decided that that data was not real accurate and to go away from that and instead just kind of look at our Trail Pass totals. So you can see,
Do we have it? We don't have it in our packets. I don't.
I don't either.
I didn't get it in my pack. Is it in the put up?
Nope, it's the same as what's in here.
okay. Great, well, I guess it's not in the packet.
Yeah, it's not in there.
Oh. Well, listen,
Well, I can talk through it. There's a lot of information here. It's just a bunch of numbers, quite honestly. So we have annual trail passes. They're sold through our office. And then also we have some partners that sell them as well. So partners that are associated with the Gandy Dancer, Cafe Ren, the Historical Society, Frederick Library, Friends of Gandy, and the Polk County Information Center. and the Natural Alternative are all locations that will sell the passes. Right now, the only location that has any numbers reported to us is the Information Center. They sold 140 annual passes and 125 daily passes. So the other businesses, they just haven't reported anything yet. They probably do that towards the end of the year. Ourselves in the Parks Department, in our office, we've sold 60 annual passes and 40 daily passes, and that's done primarily online. We are able to sell them through our website online. One thing to note as well is that the DNR also now allows people to purchase daily and annual trail passes through their website online. So kind of same thing with their park stickers. So you can purchase all those online and they send them to you. So that, there might be a reduction in our sales if people are buying them from the DNR. But really, a person can buy a trail pass in a state park on the other side of the state and it's good. Here, a trail pass is a trail pass. It works on any of the state trails. So for the Stower Seven Lakes State Trail, we have a couple partners there. City Hall sells them as well as Ellie's Ice Cream. The Friends of Stower Seven Lakes used to sell them and maintain the self-pay stations along the trail, but they went away from that and turned that over to us. We removed them all, most of the self-pay stations, and just kept the one in Amory itself, just to kind of see how many people are actually using self-pay. And all summer long, I think we maybe had 10 or 12 trail passes at the self-pay. The bulk of people are doing it online. Kind of looking at all of that together, so far for 2024, we've sold 220 annual passes and 179 daily passes for a total revenue of just over 6,000. That's probably about half of what our total was for 2023. So we're it looks like we're on pace to be maybe just below what we were last year as far as trail pass sales.
Okay. But that's not the DNRs. We don't get kickbacks from that, do we? When it's
Correct.
Online or not?
Correct, right. When they're selling them, we don't get any
We don't get any
portion of that. If we sell them online through our website, then we get that
that portion. Okay.
as well as with our trail pass partners. Our partners also get a small portion of that as well when they're selling them.
And they're selling. Okay. So the trend is it's just they're not being used more or less. They're kind of just maintaining.
As best we can tell with trail pass sales, it's really hard to tell. I know when I'm out on the trails, I encounter a lot of people using them. How many people are using them without a trail pass? We don't know. It looks like trail pass sales have been pretty steady over the years. There looks like there was a bit of a jump in 2021. But then 2022 and 2023 were pretty close, and it looks like we might be on pace to be just under that, which I guess in my mind would make sense based on the fact that now people can purchase them through the DNR easier than they could before. They always could purchase them from the DNR, but they had to do them in person at state parks. So persons at interstate and they wanted to buy a trail pass, they could buy one there, and that would be good for the Gandy in the store.
So
But
it's
now-
a good count, isn't it?
Now, if they're online getting something like, oh yeah, I can get my trail pass here too. So,
Sure.
and if the committee is interested in getting better trail use data, we can certainly look into, if there are different trail counters that would work better for gathering data. It's just, if you want to do that, what are we going to do with that data? Is it just for information purposes, or are we going to do any sort of planning with it, that sort of thing? So it's always something we can look into if there's an interest.
Okay.
Do you need to purchase a trail pass if you're just walking on a trail or just
Mm.
for bikes?
No, just biking and cross-country skiing.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're down to 5 minutes because it is 9:30, isn't it? That we have that, yeah. 4 minutes? We'll take a 4-minute break then. How's that? You get ready.
That clock's wrong.
Is that clock way
Oh,
wrong?
we have to go by Sharon's
It's
phone.
just a minute
Go by
on. It's
Karen.
9:26, not 9.
It's wrong. This one's wrong. Everyone I got is wrong. How was that? How could I have 3 clocks all wrong?
Yeah, no.
9:30. Just went to
Phone's always ringing.
it. That was better. Landed. There he is. Logan's here.
Don't sit, Logan, you're on.
All right. Let's come back and we'll open up our public hearing.
Same for the departments if they don't.
Ready to go?
We are ready. Let's
Ready.
read it in.
Linda Krings requests a district change from agricultural 10, A10 to residential R1 for a parcel located at 2502 Otter Slide Avenue in sections 25 and 26, Town 35 North, Range 19 West in the town of Eureka. Parcel number is 020-01291-0200. And it is 6.75 acres. Got it up on the map here. So we are just south of Eureka Center, and between Highway 87 and the St. Croix River, just to give you an idea of where we are. Maybe Claire could zoom out a little bit, please. That kind of shows you Eureka Center's right up here, and then the St. Croix River. So we're right in that area of the town of Eureka. If you could pull up the zoning district map, please. There. As stated, the current zoning district is agricultural 10, which is somewhat of a blanket zoning district in the town of Eureka. But as you can see, there has been rezones and developments in the area. The current parcel is in a quarter of 40 that already has 7 parcels that could be buildable. In Ag 10, you're only allowed 4. So I mean, this area has already been developed past what Ag 10 was, I believe. Could have been done before they put it into Ag 10. But the town of Eureka did approve this rezone to go to R1 at their July 11th, 2024 meeting. The surrounding land use, as you can see, it's pretty heavily residential on the south side, and the development that's up there. There is agriculture on the other side on the north side of Otter Slide Avenue. So it is a mix of both residential and agricultural uses. The purpose of the rezone is to create 1 additional lot. So there is a proposed CSM that would run approximately in this location. The town of Eureka does have a 3-acre minimum, so that's all they could do with the current town standards. Otherwise, if it was switched to R1 and there was no town minimum, potentially that could be created into 6 additional lots with a 1-acre minimum. With where the buildings are placed, it would probably be difficult, but because of that 3-acre minimum, if this is able to be split, that is all that the town of Eureka would allow for further development. There are no wetlands or floodplain or navigable water on the parcel. The parcel has access off of Otter Slide Avenue. As you can see, there's currently a dwelling and 2 accessory buildings, possibly more there, but there is a dwelling on the property currently, and I believe the other lot would be for an additional dwelling from the application. The parcel is a mixture of wooded and open grass, or just open field there, as you can see on the map. County did provide a proper Class 2 legal notice prior to this hearing and did not receive any public comments on this request. That's all I have for the staff update.
Okay. Is there anyone here for this one, for or against it to speak?
I'm the land surveyor on it, but I mean,
Oh.
did a good job, covered everything, so
Okay.
I'm Michael Torrey, the land surveying.
And I believe I do have the CSM copied, or the proposed CSM copied into the file here, if you guys would like to see that.
It was in our packet.
Is it in the packet? Okay,
It was, yeah.
okay.
The proposed CSM is in there. So it doesn't make any of the buildings non-conforming, that line?
Correct.
Okay, so it doesn't cross any sewer well or any other discrepancies on any of the other lines that we know of?
No, yeah, not as we,
So none of the neighbors, so the lines are pretty much right. No fighting there, no trails through it.
not that I'm aware of.
Okay, then we're safe. All our fun questions we gotta ask. All right. Well, if there's no one here, anyone else, any questions? Let's close the public hearing then and let's have your findings of facts.
So yeah,
Uh,
so the findings are, pretty much what I went over just prior. Would you like me to read those in, or we could go to the conclusions of law explaining the,
Okay. 3 acres, no floodplains, okay, yeah. Yeah, we go right down to the conclusions. Yeah, we pretty much just went through all those.
so changing the zoning of this property to residential or R1 is supported by the town of Eureka. Most of the surrounding lots are used for residential and agricultural purposes. The surrounding properties are all zoned agriculture 10, but the specific quarter have 7 buildable lots that are for rezoning. The property complies with the Polk County Comprehensive Plan and existing and surrounding land use and will not have a negative impact on existing public infrastructure.
Okay,
And then down a little bit, Claire. Then the staff recommendation would be to recommend approval of the rezone to the full county.
sure. So I think we caught everything.
So just need a motion.
We need a motion.
I move that we move this to the board with a recommendation. for approval.
On the consent agenda, maybe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds
Second
good.
it.
Is there a second? Tracy, second? All right, all those in favor then say aye.
Say
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? No. Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
that's why we don't say it, because we never say it.
so we don't argue at the county board. We do here.
We know you like to say that.
Oh, I do, just to make it safe.
Yep, so this is
Where-
today from 2023.
All right, are you ready? Jump back, number 10, discussion regarding zoning setback.
Claire, if you could pull up just the document first. Doc X down here. So today I'm just going to explain how our zoning department is doing setback averaging on, well, usually, or lake lots that are allowed through NR 115 to have a reduced setback due to setback averaging. So in our ordinance in 42-301, setback averaging is described as the following. Distance from a proposed building site is 250 feet or less from the main building to the main building. So it's pretty self-explanatory, but if there is a neighboring property, but their house, say it's a 40-acre parcel for some reason, not many are left on lakes or probably none, but if it's a large parcel and that house is 500 feet away, they can't use that dwelling to setback average if that dwelling happened to be within 75 feet. The number of buildings needed is 2, so 1 on each side. The setback is the average of the principal structures on adjoining lots. And the minimum setback is 35 feet. So if there were two dwellings that were built 80 years, 90 years ago, and they were both sitting at 30 feet, they can't put a new dwelling at 30 feet. It at least has to be 35 feet back from the lake, ordinary high water mark. So as far as our determination, the department's determination is that's principal structure is defined in our ordinance as the following. Principal structure or principal building means a building that is utilized for the primary use of a lot. And then also in 42-2, a building is defined as a structure that has a roof supported by columns or walls. An accessory structure is defined, which currently the definition of an accessory structure is pretty much wide open. So it means a subordinate structure which is incidental to and customarily found in connection with the primary use of the lot or property, including but not limited to garages, sheds, barns, gazebos, fences, retaining walls, pedestrian walkways, and stairways to the surface water. The next definition that I have that relates to this is a deck. And in our definitions, we have a deck described as an unenclosed exterior accessory structure that has no roof or sides. So when we are measuring for setback averaging, we are going to the eave or the wall of the dwelling, whichever is closer, and not the deck, due to the deck being considered an accessory structure and setback averaging requiring the measurement to be to a principal structure. There is a diagram in that other document. So this is just a quick sketch. So if we had 60 feet to this dwelling, 46 feet to that dwelling, we would average those to be 53 feet, and the new principal structure setback line would be 53 feet. An explanation on that, if you measured to this, say this was 50 feet and that was 36 feet, so then it'd be 43 feet. Someone could put their dwelling, in front of or almost close to the deck line, which then is creating both a visual issue, that they could place their principal structure closer than both of these existing dwellings, because if we consider this the principal structure and put a dwelling using this potentially, depending on how big somebody's deck is, somebody's principal structure could be closer than the other building on the other lots. If you want to go back to the,
Can I ask a question on this?
yeah, you bet.
So I'm just curious, as I've read through this and thought about this a lot, or tried to. So the new setback line for the principal structure, so would be 53 feet. So that means the principal structure would be then the house.
Correct.
Then they could still build a deck onto that would be closer.
Only if they either obtain a variance or go the route of a open structure. So it creates the new setback line
Open
at 53
structure, so-
feet. So there's an open structure provision in state code that allows 200 square feet to be within the setback line, but no closer than 35 feet.
Okay, so
So-
then a deck would be considered the open structure?
Correct,
So in essence, the new house could be at 53 feet,
correct.
and then they could still have an open deck for closer to the lake than that.
If they meet the open structure provision.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you. I just was, yep.
Yep.
So what you just read about structure, I just printed this off our county website. And here under structure, it says it means a principal structure or any accessory structure, including a garage, shed, boathouse, sidewalk, stairway, walkway, patio, deck, retaining wall, porch, or fire pit. So that definition of structure would include deck too, right?
Correct. So that's a broad just structure, and then it gets broken into principal structure and accessory structure. So there's a lot of different, the ordinance has definitions that, they
Okay,
definitely
Well,
something that can be.
Big and structures. So I think we have to define those better.
So yeah, if that setback averaging just stated structure, then that would be correct in your,
Yeah.
You'd be, okay, it's included in this, so we should be including that. But it does say principal structure and to use the setback averaging.
So for the confusion, do we have to define some of this better? Is that what we're looking at? Like Joe, like maybe in the fall, we have dwelling, structure and building. So and we have principal structure, accessories are anything, and accessory structure is almost anything. It's stormwater rain gardens. It's all, it's, you know, when you list out some of that stuff.
Yeah, and then it's
So I mean, do we have to define it better or?
yeah, I think there's definitely some ordinance provisions that could be looked into. If Claire could scroll down on this document, because currently our ordinance, even for, so this is the state's model ordinance, which on the bottom it states is required to be in your ordinance, but ours leaves out some of these criteria here. So that is something that we should look at getting back into our
To
ordinance.
be added back in?
Yeah,
Or, okay, so that would be it.
which is.
That's in our 115? That's in
Um,
15?
59692. And our
5969.
also does, cover that.
So with that.
To answer your question, Kim, yes, theoretically, you can always make things clearer, especially as things come up and you realize that there are potential issues on the clarity of of an ordinance or even of a statute. And that's why you do go in and make amendments to definitions or to terms. But ultimately, that doesn't change the fact that the reading as it currently stands is not wrong necessarily, it just
No.
might not be clear.
It's just not clear, I think, and that's what we have to decide. So that's something we should probably make sure we're gonna do or something. You know, when we get into this ordinance rewrite stuff to get all this. So right now, that's how it's gonna be interpreted.
Yeah, and I did have a section of the ordinance a little, if you want to go back up, please, Claire. There was a concern on a public comment that we are allowing more than 2 accessory structures, but our ordinance does state no more than 2 accessory buildings. So that's the difference. So an accessory structure can be retaining walls or as defined. There's a many things it could be. So we don't allow somebody on our property to 2 retaining walls or 1 walkway and 1 retaining wall, and they can't put in another walkway as long as everything's meeting the setbacks.
Sure.
So that's where the difference is, that we limit to 2 accessory buildings on class 1 or class 2 lakes within 300 feet, which does include a boathouse. So I just wanted to clear that up because I did.
Because that's building,
As it-
not structure.
Correct.
Okay.
Which then building is,
That's where maybe some of our stuff isn't.
yeah, and I think
Structures.
where it was done like that is because then we have all of our setbacks to accessory structures. And then you'd have to change those. I mean, it's trying to get the setbacks instead of trying to put building and structure everywhere.
Yeah,
That's why that definition of accessory structure includes buildings, but a building or an accessory structure isn't always a building.
isn't always a building. So we should separate those definitions a little.
Yeah,
bit.
that's where,
That's where I think we're having trouble.
Right.
Okay.
Is there any other questions?
Other questions? So that's something that, well, then we'll just put, when does our season start usually?
November.
November? Let's get that on there and we'll start, because we do have this pamphlet too to look at to go through the public comments. All right,
Yeah, we should update that too.
yeah. All right,
So
so yes,
what does this mean?
that's how he's doing it till November. That's what his interpretation, because he's the zoning administrator.
Yeah. Okay. But we did get a lot of feedback from building inspectors and stuff as to definitions.
That's why we have to define it then. For both ways, yes.
Because, I mean, the ones. I mean, if that's the way they're defining it, we got definitions coming from building inspectors, definitions coming from zoning.
That's a different code. The uniform dwelling code is different than the zoning. I think that's some of our state troubles is different definitions on the different divisions. So I don't think, we can't change the uniform dwelling. Can't really
No.
change some. We can we could basically clear ours up is what we're gonna try to say, to start with, and then we'll have to look into all this. And see how they mesh. That's what we have lawyers for, to make them, you know, Malia would do that.
Chairman, I just want to get this really clear. I mean, it's not clear, but what I'm saying is we're going to try and clear this up because if you look into what I've heard for years over the past, it doesn't seem like we're meshing here,
With what,
That's, yeah,
yeah, with like a new building
but then we had, yeah,
without setback. I'm talking without average. New construction, you know, it's
oh,
75
yeah,
feet or 100 feet, whichever.
no, 75 on all, now.
75.
We can't do that on the class 2s and 3s anymore, so it's all 75. But that's something, that's why we should look into that in November and really go through it better, because I can see some of these definitions from everywhere. It muddles the water pretty good. And some of ours, I think,
well, it's confusing because I think so many people were used to doing it the way it has been for the last
Yep.
few years, and now it's changed. But it really hasn't changed in writing evidently, but it's changed in process or something. You know, it's
interpretation. yes.
interpretation, yeah. So that makes it confusing too, because
Yes, it does. That's why we have to take it during ordinance season and let's see if we can take the confusion out by having better definitions and things. Don't you think?
that'd help,
Oh,
But-
that should help a lot.
but are we in the, you know, do we have situations right now that it's still kind of iffy what's going on?
So the problem is zoning administrator's job is to interpret what is written in the ordinance.
Yeah,
He has the authority to make that decision about what the proper interpretation is, regardless of what the previous interpretation was under a previous zoning ordinance. Or, sorry.
zoning administrator.
Current zoning administrator has made the determination in conjunction with Corporation Counsel's office on how to move forward currently, based upon what's written in the ordinance. If you change the ordinance, that's going to change things. Whether you define things more strictly so that the interpretation aspect of the zoning administrator's job gets limited or not, right? The zoning administrator is still going to have the authority to make determinations where there is not necessarily a specific delineation. And again, the zoning administrator has that. I mean, that's what the zoning administrator does. That's his job, is to interpret what you have written down to try to make the best decision. What I can say is, although there might be confusion and although our process may or may not have changed, I didn't advise on this particular situation, so I'm not an expert on it. I'll tell you that right now. However, I do know that he worked with Corporation Counsel's office and came to a conclusion that is supported by law, based upon his communication with Miss Malone. So I understand the confusion and I understand the concern about it. I think the best way forward is to see if this committee wants to change the ordinances in the future to clarify any of those things that maybe the committee thinks the zoning administrator is interpreting some way that they don't want them to want him to. So that is the mechanism to do it.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. So that's where we're at. So it goes to November. All right. I mean, because we could, oh, yeah, we could beat it to death. Okay. Number 12, farmland preservation.
All right. Well, you should have received the draft Polk County Farmland Preservation Plan packet. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to review that. Though there's ample opportunity to review it for the next month. So this will be out for review for a month. And we hope to bring it back in the October ES committee for a public hearing and a resolution to adopt, depending on what changes, revisions have been suggested. So at this point, I would like to just give you a little background on how this plan came to be and the intent of the plan and what our Department in Land and Water Resources uses it for and what local officials should use it for or reference it for. So this draft before you updates two prior drafts. The original Farmland Preservation Plan for Polk County was written in late 1979, adopted in 1980. We revised it in 2014. From here forward, there are 10-year updates. Here we are with our 2014 plan expiring in 2024, November of 2024. So we secured some grant funding from the Department of Ag to update this plan. And it allowed us to contract with West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission for their tools and expertise in drafting these plans. This was a collaborative effort between Polk County Planning, credit to Tim Anderson, and our department for getting this this draft plan this far with the help of Regional Planning Commission. So the process up to this point in late 2023, we knew we were awarded for this grant. So we began working with West Central Regional Planning on some of the initial planning and initial input gathering. So we solicited for some stakeholder input, and we notified some agricultural producers that are prominent in the county and may have been a part of the 2014 update, and notified ag businesses, town officials, and state representatives, and offered up some public input gathering sessions in the end of January 2024. So they provided some useful input on some specific things like the land evaluation site assessment, some of the numbering criteria and so forth that we use to set thresholds of what was either in farmland preservation area or out. And what's in, and we'll go through this a little bit later, what's in is depicted in your maps as green, farmland preservation area. What's out of farmland preservation area will be in white. Okay. And again, we'll go through that a little bit later. So it was a good public input opportunity. We took some of that data and we started kind of formulating the outline of this plan and some of the mapping criteria. The next step was updating some of the trends data that you'll see in here. This is full of statistics and trends for Polk County. It's a pretty interesting document, I think. I hope you find it interesting too on some of the trends of Polk County with regards to agriculture, rural lands, ag business, and other things. So in addition to that, we developed this land evaluation assessment, an unbiased tool to help us designate the most suitable agricultural lands to be preserved. And one of our objectives of this plan, which differed from our previous update, we wanted to be more inclusive. Forest and timber production is considered agricultural use, and in that update in 2014, we wanted to include a lot of forestry acres. Well, that maybe wasn't the most appealing of land use within farmland preservation. So in this revision, we really wanted to focus on the most contiguous, most suitable agricultural land that has the highest likelihood of preservation through either zoning or through a contract agreement or an ag enterprise area where contract agreements are made available. So we really wanted to focus in on the most contiguous areas of agricultural land in our county, and I think we achieved that with the land evaluation site assessment tool that was developed. So moving on. After we developed that land evaluation site assessment, which produced kind of the base maps that you see there, we refined it a little bit with parcel size and things like that. And then once we had the maps, we had Regional Planning Commission begin drafting the plan, and with some input from Tim and myself, and we have developed this draft farmland preservation plan. So it's out for review, as I said. Hopefully you've had some time to look through it, but what I'd like to do next is just open it up to the table of contents and identify areas and what this includes. So chapter 1 is the introduction. It gives background on some of the process and the planning framework. Chapter 2 are population and land use trends. That's pretty important information to look at. Chapter 3 is transportation trends. It kind of gives highlights of railroads, highways, roadways, just that infrastructure important to the agricultural community. Chapter 4, again, is more on infrastructure and community facility trends. Chapter 5 is environmental preservation trends, watershed, surface water, soils, and the environmental preservation impact on ag. Chapter 6 is kind of a lengthy chapter on agricultural trends, okay? Talks about ag resources, agriculture infrastructure, those trends, ag enterprise areas, agricultural land conversion. Okay?
We might need a definition of ag enterprises. Farm preservation, this is a plant farm, isn't it?
So
Preservation, it isn't in what it used to be, a farmland preservation, when they had that. That's now called ag enterprise.
So
Is there a
ag
difference there?
an ag enterprise area is a component of the larger farmland preservation program. Years ago, this plan made contracts available wherever, contracts to participate in the program available wherever there was ag lands to be preserved identified in this plan. With the Working Lands Initiative revisions in 2010, that changed a little bit and made available the ability for ag producers to petition the state for a designation called an agricultural enterprise area.
Okay.
And it's that boundary is basically stating that this area has statewide agricultural importance, and this group of agricultural producers that reside and farm in that area would like to see the designation to make a statement for farmland preservation and have the opportunity to participate in these 10-year agreements for some tax benefit.
Okay, so now do we have any of those? It used to be Alden into.
We do have one.
Right.
We do have.
That's still the only one left is way on the south.
Yep, it's the only one that has been petitioned as of this point in time. There's been other interest from time to time, but no group of producers has followed through on an actual petition. But in 2010 or shortly thereafter, the producers in the Apple Lake watershed, formerly Squaw Lake watershed, petitioned the state for the Apple Lake Ag Enterprise area. And it runs from about the old lime quarry on County Road M to Squaw Lake in St. Croix County. And it's,
So it was in Alden. It was the Alden one.
yeah, it's Alden.
It was all farmland preservation and they've been redoing out when we switched. Yeah.
It does include those sections on the far west of town of Alden that were farmland preservation
Okay.
zoning. Mhm. So it does include that area.
So now this farmland, where it says farmland preservation, there's no tax break or anything yet. It's more of a planned farmland
Yeah.
preservation. That's how it comes up on the map? Okay.
Yep.
That's what everybody thought. We're taking their farmland and making them have to have it there.
No.
No, it's a planned farmland.
That's right. It's just a plan, an area designation within a plan. It has no development restrictions. It has no contractual obligations. It has no tax benefit as it's
So
illustrated.
Ag Enterprise has the tax break.
Yep.
If I might, okay.
To get the tax break, you'd have to be within an agricultural enterprise area and apply through a contract. Or have farmland preservation zoning
Okay.
in existence, okay? So farmland preservation zoning, and Polk County doesn't have much. We do have some. Currently, there is, and apologize, we're getting kind of into the weeds on this, but the zoning maps need to be consistent with the farmland preservation map. Okay, there can't be a large discrepancy in the amount of farmland preservation area and the amount of farmland preservation area in the county. They need to be somewhat close in acreage. But we don't have that. So anybody who is within the farmland preservation zoning designation, they can't participate in the program at this point because our zoning maps have not been certified as consistent with the farmland preservation map. Now, as a product of this, this update, we hope we're getting a little bit closer to consistency. I don't know if we've achieved it enough to be certified and have people participate, but if there was areas to be rezoned into farmland preservation zoning, we might achieve more consistency and people might be able to gain certification in specific towns within the county. So that's it's a long roundabout way to say, in other words, with this plan, the farmland preservation area is closer to gaining consistency with the zoning maps, but I'm not sure we're completely there yet. Got a better chance.
Typo on that page too, because we got the villages of Amory, also Lake Frederick, and we got the cities of Osceola and St. Croix Falls.
Yeah.
Village and
City of
cities got it.
Yep. So this is a draft. We need to be made aware of those changes.
Okay.
And that's why this is out for review. And so please
Before.
help us identify those changes and we'll bring them to the public hearing. Certainly, we can note them before.
Sure.
To round out the chapters, Chapter 7 touches on the land evaluation site assessment modeling. I spoke to that earlier, and that's the methodology and rationale for developing the maps. Chapter 8 is the agricultural goals, objectives, and activities. So these are some of the goals and objectives that we developed for this plan and some of the activities that myself and my department plan to do to promote this plan and administer the farmland preservation program. And then chapter 9 is implementation. The appendix includes the maps. So again, from here, we hope to identify all the changes through the public hearing process, changes that need to be made rather, through the public hearing process in October, and have a resolution back to committee to move this on to the board to adopt. We will likely have some recommendations from the Department of Ag, Trade and Consumer Protection. This is out for their review as well. I sent this to them early this week. So they will likely have some changes and revision as well, and we'll have to incorporate anticipate those at that time as well.
Okay. So then I looked at, now does this get sent to every clerk then? So each town gets a copy of this to know what maps are.
Yeah, after,
They can give
yep,
us feedback also.
yep, we have a list of town officials. And after this meeting, I had planned to draft an email and make them aware that this draft is out for review and point them to the web, where it is on our website. It's on the Land and Water Sources Department website. And hopefully they'll take some time to
At least look at the.
view it and ultimately know that it exists and use it in their decision-making.
Okay.
This will also be incorporated as the ag element of the comp plan. So, and Kim has anything else to,
I know Osceola's doing it with their meeting last night, and they have different zoning on a bunch of this, just in the farming. So interesting that they're overlapping and not fitting together, so. Interesting.
yeah, all town officials, the town officials will be noticed that this is
Sure.
available, so they may have some changes as well.
Okay.
So that's what I have. Are there any questions or observations or something that wasn't clear? You know, it is a complicated program, so I apologize about that. It's time for many of us who administer it to be in the program, and I don't know if we're there yet.
Some of the stats that are in here, is that all pulled from Wisconsin's like NAS stats?
Yeah,
Is that where they're pulled from?
yeah, and the egg statistics, egg statistics, and to be honest with you, much of that was pulled by West Central Regional Planning Commission.
Okay.
And I'm not too informed on where they.
Well, they get all the population numbers and stuff come from the census.
Yep,
Sure.
census data, yep, absolutely, and
I'm just looking at like the commodity sales. Some of those numbers I think are interesting.
But you can certainly ask me. I'm going down there Thursday.
Perfect.
Ask them, yeah, make sure they got the right numbers.
When you notice changes like that, are you getting back to West Wisconsin Regional Planning?
yeah, so the way I'm envisioning the process is we're gonna kind of make note of the changes that come in here in the next month, but all of the changes will be reviewed at the hearing public
Yep.
in October.
And then,
And-
just so they know too, so that they know that, like, they need to be careful what something's a city or a village or.
Yeah, so we will notice them with the changes and they'll be the ones to
Make the changes.
make the changes
Okay.
in the draft.
Great.
So they will be
Great.
editing all of that content. They have the Word document of this.
Mhm.
So we'll share those changes with them and they'll be the ones to make the changes.
It helps them the next time they do one of these too.
Yep.
To be aware of different things.
We have a shared copy that we're working on together with them, that all of us can see the changes and make changes. So if
Yep.
there's stuff that we need, and it's all tracked, so we can make those changes at any time and they'll see them and we'll make them
Perfect.
aware of that kind of stuff. There's a couple other points I wanted to make too about the plan, and that is the land evaluation site assessment tool that we used in order to identify the properties and the maps, along with the goals and objectives that are in this plan. Were vetted through the public input process for those stakeholder meetings. So the ag producers, the ag businesses, the town officials that were in attendance at those meetings were the ones that directly gave us the input that changed some of those criteria for the plan. So we try to utilize their input and their opinions about what the direction of this plan should be. Just wanted to make that clear.
Good. Now, just one on page 58. Potential action. Do we have with Starbury and Deer Park? Do we have to have an agreement with them for that mile and a half extraterritorial? That might be something for Joe. Do you have to have an agreement to have that hour for zoning? Say like Balsam Lake here, you have a mile and a half around the perimeter. Don't you have to have some agreement with the people you're drawing your circles around?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that.
Okay. I'm just wondering, because some of these, they say they have jurisdiction, but I thought you had to have some kind of an agreement.
I can follow up with Eric and we can.
Just
look into
maybe
that.
look on that one. I just marked that because
Yeah, what page?
I'm on page 58, 46 of the plan,
Yeah.
chapter 9-1, potential action. Where it has Deer Park and Star Prairie might be into Polk County. That we should maybe find out if we need an agreement or something, that they can't just automatically say this or that. I'm not positive how extraterritorial some of that works. I thought there had to be an agreement between the two entities.
Yeah, and I think you have to have a joint board to make those planning.
To make that-
planning and zoning decisions. Yep. Mhm.
Don't they have to have something, some
Yeah.
kind of an agreement?
Yep, usually it's.
Because the city can't, like Osceola can't just say, here, we got a mile and a half, we're gonna do this, this,
If
this.
you're gonna exercise extraterritorial zoning, you have to have an agreement with both communities. and
With all the
joint board.
communities.
Yep.
So if we don't have it with them, that could come out.
Yep.
All right, I think that's. Didn't mark it up too bad yet.
That's the only way, that's the only one you marked up, Tim?
Oh, I got a couple other odd ones, but they didn't.
That's pretty good.
Well, I appreciate,
Yeah,
your time and sharp eyes on this. So, any other
Okay.
questions?
Nice job.
yeah, that is good. It's. Okay. Let us look at. Budget already.
Good morning, everyone. Just a slight update kind of on the budget as it looks at environmental services division. Our goal right now is we're still working at the numbers a little bit to have a balanced budget to you in 2 weeks. Really, some of the things we're watching are sales tax. Sales tax came up a little bit, but still down 1.1% from 2023. So we're behind the 8 ball there, about $37,000. So we are in the process of adjusting that number already. So what you have in front of you right now is what we call our extra funding request. Committee is looking at how they affect each committee. And for environmental services, here are the extra funding requests that I will recommend for the budget. You notice the grand total there is 105,000. Total AFRs that were submitted by departments were over $6 million worth of extra funding requests. So then it's my job to say yes or no to those funding requests on how we can get a balanced budget.
Did you say 6 million?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
Just to clarify.
Just for this department.
Just to clarify, a lot of money. So what you see here is, some of them are very basic, replace the boat, which has been around for a long time, and a motor. The land information side, the first three there, as you know, last November with the budget, we approved the wage study that was completed by McGrath. Subsequently, the ES director left. We have a new environmental services director. And part of Sarah's restructuring, her leadership team in that, caused a little bit of reclassification for a couple of the positions, adding leadership responsibilities to them. So this is realigning those positions to where they need to be. The other ones, the aerial imagery for the county, that's very important because that connects with Next Gen 911. That's giving us better clarity on those. And then upgrade the LiDAR online and web application for $9,000. With that, that's pretty much how that goes. You go to the next slide. So that's fortunately how we're going to pay for these. We have several different funding sources. The 110 fund is our internal loan fund for departments, which we utilize that fund as departments take money out of that and they repay the fund back over 5 years. Kind of like an internal fund. Levy, taxes, bonding's a big portion of balancing our budget this year. We're trying very hard not to pass a deficit budget as we did in the last couple of years, because we were spending ARPA money. We had that extra money from the federal government. So this year, we're getting back on our bonding program to keep our levy as flat as possible without large increases. And with that, we have a couple more things we can look at in this budget for balancing that as we move levy from department to department. One of those is the recycling fee. We still have the P-TAG money out there, which is, there's $695,000 still in that fund, but it's only designated for new trail improvements on county trails. So one of the thoughts is to have, by resolution, is to include parks with that so that we can maintain what we currently have versus trying to build new and then try to maintain them. The other one is broadband. We still have broadband money out there of $800,000 that's sitting out there for the last 2 years that we have not utilized yet. And that was trying to get that last connection to the homes for fiber in our ditches, but it's become very cumbersome and unclear how fairly we can disseminate that money to residents and the companies with that. So one of the board decisions could be to take that money and use it for capital. The other thing is our bonding capacity. Our bonding capacity, we're waiting on our final number. It's going to land right now around $2.2 million for bonding. Currently in the budget, we have about 1.7 million. So there's another $500,000 there that could be utilized for other capital projects, infrastructure, if we so utilize. Some of the things that are out there in the other budget, just so you're aware, you'll get this all at county board, but you know, one of the things that's out there is the grandstand. Right now in the grandstand, we got earmarked $600,000 for the grandstand. Engineers estimate with GT grandstands was 1.7 million. For permanent bleachers, we got another bid for $499,000. That didn't include the concrete work, so we earmarked about 600,000 for that project. To call it a grandstand, it needs a roof. If we desire to put a roof on it, that's another $500,000 on that. So those are some of the choices coming forward with the board for that money, or we could use that extra $500,000 to help our infrastructure road program also. So those will be coming out with that. Working on your board priorities. So that's kind of a brief outlook at what's coming through for ES division and how we're looking at the budget, but you'll get the full details in a couple weeks at the county board. I want to thank staff for working on the budget. Chad and Don's group up there, we've done a good job at saying no to a lot of things, but you know, we're doing our best here.
Well, we still stayed with our capital improvement plan too.
Yes, and that's the key is with the bonding program is that we
start picking those off.
We start picking those off. The following year, 2026 budgeting for the infrastructure, the big projects would be the HVAC and the Justice Center. You know, that system is well over 20 years old now, and that needs upgrading
So
before it breaks.
we started the maintenance,
Yes,
something for maintenance, so we're not just getting nailed at the end of these 20-year deals. So
yes, we set aside, I believe it's 250,000 in Rod Polk's facilities budget to continually pick up on this stuff so that we don't end up with a large project at the end.
So another one we get tax deed land. Shows $2 million. Not paid. We had it down to 20,000. Now it's back to 2 million. Didn't we have it way down?
Seriously?
Yeah,
Yes, we did.
it's at $2 million.
I'm not sure what, I haven't seen that latest number.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Because the 3 books you gave us at the meeting, I was reading. And it has $2 million in tax deed land, and we had it under 200,000.
Yeah.
But
And that Act 216 screwed us that bad.
was that audit though before the July payments of
Whatever
taxes?
you gave me last time is what I was reading.
I believe the audit's done.
County board, you gave us a stack of stuff.
I'll check on it, but I believe the audit's done before the July tax, half the taxes come in.
Yeah.
So it might be floating that tax still in there. So,
Yeah.
but we'll find out on that number.
So,
But if that was in our budget book, that's scary. That's $2 million right off the top. Is it not?
We will get the answer for you.
Just,
I mean, it was in there. That's why I read it. I just went, oh my God, we're not doing anything right.
If you want to save yourself in the future, just give him his books last.
But I mean, we had it down.
Oh, I know.
I
we
mean,
did.
that's just, I was floored. I couldn't believe it's in tax deed, like $2 million.
Yeah, I'd have to verify why that number's that.
Why it's that high?
Yeah, because we had it down just,
200,000.
just,
After that Menard steals and stuff, we had it down. It was
Yeah.
like 16,
yeah, it was 60, I want to say it was around 60,000 or
Yeah.
7,000.
just about nothing.
About gone, something that we could write off.
To go back to 2 million, holy man, but in fact, 216 did that to us. That's terrible.
We can run a new report with Amanda and find out what the latest number is.
Okay, yeah, because that's kind of a scary. I didn't even bring them with me because it was that scary.
Bet your pen was just wild, wasn't it? Highlighter.
I ran it out, I had to go get it.
Now it's inked.
That one property behind my place that we sold, they have that trucking
Yeah,
where they're teaching people to drive trucks. That is a busy place.
Is a,
Yeah. It is busy.
it's a good thing.
That was a good move.
unless we're 2 million in the hole again, so.
I just have I have a general question when we look at the budgets for the different divisions. So then any kind of wages and stuff, that actually is coming under like the HR budget? Is that how that works?
That is in
Versus-
every budget. That is baked into every budget line item as we go through it.
So these are just additional,
These are just additional requests. And
would
so,
like-
It's their wish list.
I would
Yep,
like.
okay.
this.
the difference, as you look at the budgets, many of them are very, depending on how the levy goes, right? Like law enforcement is very high in levy, but doesn't have a lot of revenue coming in. CSD, health services, they have a large levy also, but they have a tremendous amount of revenue coming from state aids, grants and stuff like that. Divisions in the ES are very much staff supported with levy and that thing with revenues coming from permits and those items. So there's not a lot of room where you saw the cost of a boat of $12,000, in a budget like highways where you have a lot of different categories, you wouldn't think twice about asking for a boat on that. So it's that checks and that balance system that we have to work on as we look at each budget.
Thanks. As I'm looking at the reclassification, because I just think that's interesting that that's an additional ask versus you've done a wage study and these need to be reclassified, that's not part of your regular budget. But I suppose since it's a one-time reclassification, it falls into the extra ask.
Right, and those are part of our personnel policy that those changes need to be done through the budget process.
Sure.
So that's why you see them in there.
There, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
And they ask for twice as much, so you get half.
What? It's okay.
Any more questions? Thanks, Mo.
All right, thank you.
I think we're up.
Yep,
We have some departments were listed, zoning and land and water resources. I'd imagine that's because I was absent last month and so they specified the two departments, but it works out great because I'm actually gonna have Eric kick it off with a little bit of information from land and water resources and then I'll get up
okay.
and give my spiel.
Yeah, I've got two things, two kind of exciting things. And thanks, Sarah, for letting me take up some of your
Absolutely.
director update time. But first is an ask. So we have a land and water conservation board, and that board is tasked with many things, and I'll go through that here in a minute. But it's made up of 11 members, 3 of which are from county land conservation committees, you all, and state agency leaders, 1 governor-appointed member serving a 2-year term, and 4 governor-appointed members representing urban, rural, river management, natural resource preservation interests. Those of you that have been around for a while have seen nominations come through the committee for seats on this board. Nominations for this board will be submitted here on September 18th at our Northwest Area Land and Water Association meeting. Supervisor O'Connell and Supervisor Kelly attended the last meeting. And so I'm asking if there's any interest from our committee here in serving on this board. We could take your nomination to the September 18th meeting. It would be a one-page biography. We'd introduce it at the September 18th meeting, but then it would be due to the Land and Water Association by September 30th. So, you know, it's a pretty important role in the land conservation world, and this board reviews our land and water plans and makes recommendations for those land and water plans, sets priorities, things like that. Recommends how the Department of Ag, Trade and Consumer Protection should allocate their conservation funds statewide, and provides a forum to discuss emerging soil and water conservation issues. So a lot can be learned from engaging with this group too. So I'm just curious if there's any interest in maybe stepping into a larger role statewide in that Land and Water Conservation Board. If there is, reach out to me between now and maybe next week. So, and if you'd like more information, I can certainly provide that too. So with that, I'll move on to the next item, and this is kind of a neat time. August 23rd was the last day of our summer interns 12-week internship, and every year I'm amazed at the skill sets and the energy that those interns bring to our department and really help us with a lot of work. And this year, our interns took some initiative to kind of document one of their tasks for the summer, and that was raising and releasing a biocontrol for purple loosestrife. The biocontrol is a Gala-Russella beetle, and they're host specific, so they don't become a problem like other insect pests that have been released for biocontrol. But this one is host specific on purple loosestrife, and Lucy and Keaton made a video that I'd like to share at this time. So Claire, if you could cue that up and we'll let Lucy take it away. Do we have sound?
I'm going to show you our. Hi, I'm Lucy. I'm a Polk County Land and Water Resources Department intern, and I'm going to show you our Purple Loosestrife summer project. This is my fellow intern, Keaton. Welcome to the cage, where we carefully replant an invasive wetland species known as purple loosestrife to feed our hungry Gala-Russella beetles that solely eat the purple loosestrife. Purple loosestrife has a bushy appearance and square stems. Its flower has a pinkish purple tone and blooms late July to early September. It's easiest to identify purple loosestrife when it is in full bloom. First, we dig invaded areas of purple loosestrife. Next, we pot it. Replant it in our cage. Make sure to water it. And decontaminate our gear because purple loosestrife can reproduce through stem fragmentation. Then we collect beetles with a reused plastic bottle. Sometimes we use the help of a vacuum. This is what 2 full bottles of beetles look like. We transfer them into mesh nets to keep them comfortable and give them more space. We make sure to estimate the number of beetles we release at each site. We average around 1,500 beetles per bag. Time to release beetles at known purple loosestrife locations in Polk County. Our beetles are strong flyers, so the light shake of the net allows the beetles to fly towards the purple loosestrife and begin feeding on the leaves. Oh, hi, Keaton. This hinders the purple loosestrife's ability to flower and produce seeds. Beetle and larva sightings are a clear sign that they are thriving outside the cage and successfully reproducing in the wild. Overall, we were able to release around 35,000 beetles this summer. Thanks for watching. Bye now.
Thanks for letting me share that. That was a kind of a neat piece that they just came up with on their own, and we've used it and we'll continue to use it. And it's a great little outline of how we raise those beetles. And we have a mass rearing cage out back by our shed where we've got the plants all in a cage, and pests can't get in to feed on the beetles, and the beetles can't get out, so we can collect them and take them where we need them most. But it's been a very effective biocontrol for purple loosestrife, and we've been doing it for about 25 years. So a long history of continuing to control invasives on our landscape.
So people shouldn't put them in a vase and put them in their house, the flowers like that.
Yeah, they,
I thought it was part of my garden.
I know.
I mean, a lot of people.
Exactly.
one of those species that do fall into our no transport ordinance.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, they're pretty impactful in wetlands and
Sure.
displace a lot of natives. So yeah, they're somewhat problematic, though they are attractive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. The interns also did a great job kind of updating and doing some things for the Polk County Fair this year, which I thought if you visited the booth, they just did a great job. So Lucy Keaton, and then we also had Jay Juan, who worked in our GIS division. It just was a really great season of interns, and I think it always leads to really good, almost future recruitment for these staff. So always fun to see that. I just wanted to touch base on a few things of the budget, just in case there was a few questions, or actually just those additional funding requests. It was a great question, Pam, about, like where those sit. And I think this is a one-time ask for some of these adjustments, and then that will roll into then my professional budget for HR in the future. The reclassification of a zoning tech to a specialist really is in case one of our technicians becomes a certified soils tester, so we can handle that adjustment. And we're not giving our friendly government director any angst about where that money would be coming from. So we just are planning for that. The biggest ask in those additional funding requests is really the aerial imagery and ortho imagery. Before I came on board, but usually about every 5 years, even more, we participate in WRAC, which is the Wisconsin Regional Ortho Imagery Consortium. It just keeps our costs down. We, like any consortium, right? We join hands and have a larger group to keep our costs down for that data. And it's just really becomes, like Mo said, an integral piece of our 911 and all of our GIS data to have that best available imagery. So I just wanted to touch base on a few of those things, because really, other than that, 80,000, our ask was fairly small in environmental services, and we obviously we appreciate that they're provisionally approved, and hope that continues forward. Second of all, as you know, our zoning office, we administer the rural addressing numbering ordinance. And I talked to you about the project that came forward in Balsam Lake, where the town of Balsam Lake worked for about a year, updating their addresses. It's now to the level where there are petitions, and there were 7 of them yesterday at the Public Safety, Public Works Committee, that you'll now see on the county board. Some of them will come forward with, I don't know, Joe, that come forward with approval I'm struggling for my words here, but recommendation for approval or for denial. And so you will see those at the next County Board of Supervisors meeting. And then I will work with Administrator Norby on how to handle sharing that information appropriately with the board. Again, it's a public safety ordinance that we administer because of our tie to building, obviously. But I'm thinking it will be a kind of a joint presentation from the Sheriff's Department and the zoning division, environmental services. So put that on your radar. Those are coming forward in a couple weeks. Some good news, we in environmental services are actively testing our first AI chatbot. Everybody's testing it. Eric asked it who the best county conservationist is, and it said Eric Wojcik, so he thinks it's great.
It works, huh?
We're testing it through the month of September. We're asking it any and all questions to make sure that it has, or, if we find any errors in it, we're just going to ask it whatever we think people in the community might ask it. And then I think Claire is hoping to have that go live by the first of the year. So it's just a nice tool to have out there on the website if people are going there, asking permitting questions, asking who to go to for what. So we'll continue to do that test. I just wanted to make the committee aware that we will have our first AI chatbot, which AI kind of scares me, but it seems to be working. And I'm assured that it will not be a mean chatbot. So.
And I mean, this might be a silly question, but and even what we were talking about earlier with finding ordinances that are different ages at different times and different places on our website. So if we go to an AI chatbot, is it going to go to the most current, accurate place?
We will certainly test that.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing is, I've gone through different things and ran into many of the same, even in the Muni code, it's like, oh, but I went here instead of, the most updated, because I was thinking, well, if it's in the code, it's in the code. I needed to learn that as well. I could see some huge frustrations if it's literally just word searching, it could be really.
Yeah, we want to make sure that there's no erroneous data, that people are not going to go there and ask something. I mean, really, this next month, we're going to really try to test this thing. And we're encouraged by our IT department to really just test the limits of it and make sure of all of that. And I do know there are some different dates and things out there. We're trying to search, working together with our county clerk to make sure that the Muni code gets updated. She's got the cycle and everything pretty standardized, but yeah, I think there's still some room for improvement, but we'll make sure anyway the chatbot's right.
And it's, and not saying it's not something anybody has already thought about, it just would be a concern.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, for sure. And also we want to make sure, that if it's asking things about staff, I mean, we just have a lot of questions for it. So as Claire knows, we're gonna, and I keep talking about Claire because in the IT department, she's our contact for that chatbot. And then just the final thing in zoning, I like to give a snapshot about this time of the year so you guys are aware of our number of permits that are coming forward. Same date to same date, 2023 to 2024. In 2023, so last year at this time, we had 726 land use permits. To date, today, we had 709. So we are only about, 15, 17 permits behind in that area. Our sanitary permits, though, on the other hand, last year at this time, 240, this year, 250. So we're a little bit ahead on there, on those numbers. I do think with the rainy season and things that we will end up likely ahead of where we were last year. I don't know, Logan, if you agree with that, but I do think this fall is going to be a busy season for zoning. As far as compliance, we've had, the compliance officer is working diligently. Right now, we have a little bit of time where Corp Council asked us to kind of not a bunch of things at them, but I think we're at the point now where we'll be moving forward with our existing citations. I mean,
She says at them, she means me. I mean,
Yeah, you are them.
There's no,
Come on.
there's no we in this one, is
I have one question, if I could, back on the budget stuff. It says replace the John boat. So are you selling a John boat then too?
yeah, the idea is, and that's why the package deal came to, Eric, do you want to speak to it quickly?
Could I? That'd be great. Thanks, Sarah. So we do currently have a 16-foot John boat trailer and boat motor. It's roughly in the neighborhood of 20 years old. And about 2 years ago, it started leaking. We had to send it off for aluminum patches. It got wear marks where the bunk rollers, it's after a lot of use. So we feel we're running it on borrowed time.
Yep.
And in the capital improvement plan, we kind of pieced it out originally, replace the boat because that was the most urgent need. And then a couple years down the road, replace the motor. But since we have a John boat trailer and motor that is working, we feel we'd get the best value by trading it
Yeah.
for a new.
So the 12,000 is assuming that you're gonna get so much for trade-in then?
Yeah, that's, so that, the trade-in, we didn't really factor that in. I think in my research, 12,000.
It's the cost.
Is a high amount, not factoring the trade-in in that. So
Okay.
you could apply, our trade-in value and what we would use likely would be less than
Less than
12,000.
that. Okay,
Okay, so it kind of
Leftover.
proceeded with a worst case scenario and cost.
okay.
Can't leave them up the creek without a paddle.
Yeah. Paddle and life.
Exactly.
So any county asset that has any value.
Yep.
We auction.
Okay,
If we,
The
had-
sheriff's
Yeah.
stuff goes.
the exception might be a trade, a straight trade.
Yeah.
And then that ends up going into a revenue account.
okay.
But we dispose of assets appropriately. So
Oh, yeah, I knew we did.
I just wanted, for new members, I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
it was clear that by county policy.
I just
we have
wondered
to-
about the 12,000. Was that just straight cost of the equipment and then everything else just comes back to us? Okay,
Efficient use of funds, obviously, rather than doing boat
yep,
package deal, is just use the funds.
And then typically we reserve the right, if we ask for trade-in value, we reserve the right to not trade it in and auction it on
Sure.
ourselves if
yeah,
we feel we can get more on the auction.
yep.
Any questions for me from the committee?
No.
Shall I just stay here and we can talk about your upcoming work plan? Or I guess I can do that from my seat over here.
Yes, we can do the work plan.
We will for sure keep, as Eric indicated, the Kaiser half conservation easement for updates and hopefully potentially have action on that at the next meeting. You will conduct the public hearing for the FPR, farmland preservation plan. And then even a possible resolution to adopt, if that goes well, if it's, minimal discussion on that.
Or minimal changes or
Yeah.
something, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just mentioned, as you always do, Supervisor O'Connell, the tax deed properties. We can probably give an update on some of those.
See what's working, yeah.
Other than that, I think that, what else?
Then November, that'd be one of our first updates in November, then it would be
Mhm.
setback averaging or definitions, whatever we want, maybe just definitions.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Logan has given the interpretation and if the committee wants clarity on some of those definitions, we can open up those ordinances and
We probably should.
start that process in November, or December. I mean, so typically
See how
ordinance,
busy we are and then put it on.
typically ordinance season opens in November and then as December, January wraps up in February.
Tries to.
Okay,
Yep.
so that's the timeline. So we can maybe bring forward options for November, what we're looking at, and what's been indicated that we need to talk about for changes.
Yeah, from the public input,
That would be
better
November.
definitions maybe.
So November, ordinance options in November. Okay. October, will the committee need any action on budgeting things done, or that just goes to full board, correct? Okay, okay.
We have fees already done, yeah.
Still learning the full process.
We don't know if we'll have a public hearing. If there's any in line this month coming up or not, that we know of.
Yeah, I don't think there's any currently, but they seem to come
Pop in right
Yeah.
at, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now for the litigation update, do we have to go into a closed session for that?
Yes, I think we should.
We should, all right.
Thank you, guys.
You
So we're going to need a motion for that, and we'll want the odd reason, we're gonna have the whole bag and leave during the. What's that? Yes, we do.
You want me to?
We need a motion to go in first.
Go into closed session for litigation
I
updates.
second it.
For statute 1985 1G.
Correct.
Okay, all those in favor then say aye.
Aye.
So it'll be
Claire, you should know better than that.
The language used, holy man, never. I'm in trouble.
Yeah, Claire said, oh, did you?
So return 11:02.
Yeah, he's gonna have a,
Yeah.
what kind of,
Happy really.
he's gonna have some kind of suit against.
I got a lot of editing to do.
Oh, shoot, it's a real writing.
The closed session, nothing comes out of it, so I'm safe when I'm in court.
Well, can I make a motion, we adjourn?
Yes, you can.
I make a motion, we adjourn?
I'll second.
Second.
Doug's got a second.
Doug.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 11:02 if that clock